AJ, I'm going to start with the most obvious question. Have you started extension talks with Fernando Tatis Jr.?
He's still on vacation for the summer, and I think no. I think we're I think overall just focused really on finishing out the year and letting him finish out his first season, and we'll get into a lot of questions in the off season. Obviously for all our players, I think a lot of season left, and want to see how we finish it out before we start talking about some of the off season questions.
How important is it to go ahead and finish strong? You guys as an organization talked about expectations changing in spring training the moment Manny Machado has signed with the team. I mean, have you met those expectations first?
It's important to finish strong. I mean, I think what we've talked about again is we're expecting to play in the postseason and play into October and
this year.
Yeah, I mean, I think what we talked about really from the beginning part of the season is, I think overall that's the goal. That's how we start every year. Honestly, is look up and say, hey, we want to be a competitive club and we want to play into October. And I think this year we've, first half of the year especially, we've shown flashes. We've shown we've had some guys come up. It's the youngest team in baseball, I think, and we've had some guys come up and show that they're probably going to be pretty big parts of the future here and a bright future. But over the course of like the next 6 weeks, it's we're kind of on that outskirts of contention, and I think if we play well, you've got a chance to play some meaningful games into September. And I think when we started out the season, thought that was a very realistic goal and a reasonable goal, and it's still where our focus is on the season and trying to play some meaningful games here down the stretch and hopefully into the extra season.
You mentioned having the youngest roster in baseball, and a lot of that comes from your starting pitching. Is it realistic to expect a team though to really be in it when you have a pitching staff that young, when you have to monitor pitch counts for guys like Chris Paddock and Lamet and people coming off Tommy John and the rookies?
It's definitely a different challenge, but again, I think we talk about it when we signal guys in the game. We're not asking how old they are and anything like that. We believe in the group we have. I think we've known that it presents a different set of challenges really from the beginning of the year, where we were giving guys extra days, trying to bring a 6-man in just to make sure that these guys, for the most part, most of the a lot of the guys we've given an opportunity to, it's been a new experience to pitch an extra month in the season, start in February in spring training, go through major league lineups every 5 or 6 days. Eric Lauer, Joey Lucchesi, those guys had last year's experience to build on, but we've broken in another group of guys, whether it's Paddock or Quantrill and guys in the bullpen. So that's a challenge for sure, but we believe in the talent, we believe in the guys and their ability, and I think it's overall we're going to contend with this group, and I think it's been a good experience overall for really the overall group of pitchers that we put on the mound this year.
Hunter Renfroe spoke about the trickle-down effect that Manny Machado has had on the rest of the guys offensively, himself, Eric Hosmer. What hasn't worked for Wil Myers this year? I feel like every year we're like, okay, this is going to be the year the pressure's off him. They signed Eric Hosmer, then it's Machado. Why hasn't Wil Myers been the player that you envisioned when you signed him to the extension?
Yeah, honestly, I think that's what we've been talking about a lot over here. I mean, obviously, I think he's been healthy this year. In years past, I think a lot of times it's been, the last few seasons, it's been more of a health question, and we've just, when he gets on the field, he's going to play well. I think over the course of the last month he's played better, but he'll be the first to tell you it's not it's not to the level that we're used to seeing. It's not the level of what he's done in the big leagues or here in San Diego, and I think that's a question that we continue to look at every single day. He's working really hard to get to the player that he knows he is, that we know he is. We're going to continue to give him opportunity, but it just hasn't happened for him so far this year.
Mejia Hedges situation. I mean, Austin Hedges seemed to be the clear-cut starter coming out of spring training. He had his opportunity, and it seems like now is this Mejia's job to lose, or is it the point where you want to see how he fits into your future?
I think we've talked about it a lot. We feel like we have two really good major league catchers, and I think. Again, we have guys that they'll push each other. I think it gives Andy options and the ability to, if somebody's hot, somebody's playing well, somebody meshes well in terms of with our staff, somebody meshes well in terms of who the opposing starter is. It gives you flexibility, and it's rare these days that the catching position is just is a one-person job. It's you look up and pretty much most teams, it's they've got two catchers. Very few guys that are catching 130 plus games in the league anymore. And I think from our standpoint, we've opened it up. It's an open competition for the two of them, and it's and it's the ability for Andy to mix and match and put who he thinks gives him the best chance to win for that day, until one of the guys takes hold of the job. And even in that case, I think like playing time in terms of giving guys rest, giving guys a breather, that's going to always be part of the equation at that position. But honestly, I think it's open-minded to kind of see what's the best for our club, what's the best for for our staff, and I think overall feel good about having two really good young catchers that on the roster here for right now and going forward.
What's going to be the number one question that you guys look into going into your off season as it comes to players on this team internally and also free agency?
Yeah, I mean, I think just continuing to get better, continuing to round out the roster. We like a lot of the guys that are here, and I think we have the bulk of of what we think is going to be winning clubs in in the future. They're on our roster right now. I mean, I think obviously seeing Tatis get into the big leagues this year, Paddock in the big leagues, Quantrill, watching what Naylor has done here recently and in his second stint up in the big league level, seeing the development of a Hunter Renfroe, especially on the defensive end. I think Manny going into future years, Haas continuing into future years, where he's had a nice bounce back season here this year, coming off of last year. Again, it's just adding to that core, and I think, there's a lot of different ways we can go. We've got some flexibility, especially because we have some young major league talent. We have a lot of minor league talent. That's what teams, when you're talking trade, that's what's most attractive to clubs. And I think just adding to a core group of guys that we feel like we've established here in the last year or so. Again, it's sometimes overall it may not be that far away. Maybe the right move or two that gets you really into a contending spot, and that'll be the focus for the off season.
How do you evaluate the job that Andy Green has done at this point? You mentioned, this is the most talented roster he's had, as Padres manager. But how do you evaluate the job that he's done this year?
Yeah, he's done a good job in terms of, again, there's still the balance of, we've talked about some development at the big league level, and as you mentioned earlier, it's a young pitching staff. It's guys that haven't really necessarily been through these experiences before. Definitely new faces with Machado, Kinsler, and some guys at the beginning part of the season. And I think he's blended all together. I think again, what we talk about, overall is being the best version of ourselves. We've shown that we can play with the best teams. We've shown that we can play and have good stretches of baseball. I think when and then we've also shown at times that we can go the other way and not play good for stretches of baseball. I think the thing that Andy's done is when it looks like all right, this season may get away from us, that's when usually we right the ship and we go out and play good ball for a stretch of time. I think the thing that we talk about constantly is that consistency. I think part of it is just getting guys getting experience, guys getting used to the big league level, and again just kind of finding that key to lock some guys in. But overall, I think he's done a good job with a young group. We've definitely been more exciting, more competitive, and I think we all understand we've got another step or two we need to get to where we want to go in the next few years.
Ultimately, you guys are all judged on wins and losses. Do you feel that he is absolutely the right guy to go ahead and lead this team to take that next step?
Yeah, he's again he's the guys in that clubhouse, the guys in the building, they believe in him. He's a guy that's he's very he's sharp in terms of in terms of how he prepares for games. He's sharp with in-game strategy. He's prepared for what the game presents. He's a guy that has his care factor is really deep. Players want to play for him. They enjoy playing for him, and I think all those things, when you look at a manager, those are things that that we definitely value, and I think have been there. I think. Again, the last few years, it's been it's been giving him younger squads or teams that honestly going into it asking for development. And I think this year, yeah, we've pushed to be more competitive, obviously, as we have more talent on the field. And we came into the break in a good spot. We've had a rough stretch over the course of the last month or so. Now we'll see how we finish the season, but he's done a good job for us overall this year.
You just squashed my next question because I was going to ask. There was a report that he lost the clubhouse, but you're saying that guys like playing. They like playing for him. They respect him. So I guess that answers that question.
Yeah. Again, we're seeing. Again, when we look at our team and look at how do we get more consistent, I think the question it's not a factor of we don't feel like guys are showing up ready to play or anything like that. The team, they enjoy each other. I think everybody can see every single day. There's a good chemistry. There's a good dynamic here. In terms of the way the guys enjoy playing together, being around each other, and Andy builds a lot of that. And I think So I think that part is there. Again, I think the question for us is probably some additions, some tweaks, some different things that we've got to add to round out the roster, and I think that's going to be probably the biggest questions for the offseason.
What are you doing on Thursday?
I don't know yet, honestly. I think either be in Philadelphia for the off day or possibly still here in Southern California.
But you'll have a computer handy or your mobile phone handy, correct?
Always, yeah.
Okay, because on Thursday, Olive Garden they're selling a lifetime pass for $400. All you can, your favorite restaurant, all you can eat, the salad, the breadsticks, the soup, the pastas, lifetime pass, $400. Will you be ready to?
Sounds like a must-do. I was not aware of that, but sounds like something I need to take advantage of on Thursday. So
you'd be set the rest of your life. You wouldn't have to go anywhere.
Yeah, it's probably a good deal. So good thing we have the off day, so I can focus on the Olive Garden for Thursday and try to get set up for life with a great restaurant.
Get your whole staff, have them logging for you, and then you and Darren can, you could dine in luxury in Peoria.
Yeah, Darren, I'm sure will love that. The Olive Garden for Thursday. But yeah, I think look into that on Thursday, see what we get. So
appreciate the time.
Sounds good.
Thank you.